Okay, Rebecca is going to talk to us about history as well.
Okay, so last and hopefully not least, my name is Rebecca Graves, and for my senior presentation, I decided to focus on hands-on history, the importance of preserving local history. It was really hard for me to find a topic because I have so many different passions. One is definitely architecture. I love the idea of creating something. I'm AutoCAD certified, and I thank Ms. Jamerson for that. She really made me realize this passion I have when I took her technical drawing course that I had to because of governor school. So thank you guys too. I've always loved history, and I've always really loved the idea of teaching somebody something and the idea of having an education and how wonderful it is. So it's amazing to me that watching these presentations, so many of you went and tried to impact children, because that's me on a field trip at Montpelier in elementary school. And when I went there, they were remodeling the place, and we had to sift through some stuff, found some pretty cool looking things. Glad I didn't have to clean those like Eric did. But that really kind of got the ball rolling for my presentation and for this entire project. So for my research question, I wanted to know what the best processes were that architects use to restore historical buildings to their former glory. When I did this, I kind of had a hard time because there's more to remodeling than just reconstruction. There's rehabilitation, reconstruction, preservation, and then rehabilitation. And they're all very different. Preservation is when you go to a site and then you just try to keep it exactly how it is so people can go in there and see it for many years to come. Reconstruction is when you go to places like Montpelier and you try to take it back to a specific time. Rehabilitation is when you go into a building and you're trying to save it. Basically, it's falling apart. You just want to keep it together. And then reconstruction is when you're doing your own thing. You go into a place, you can make it modern any way you want to make it. So for my research paper, I found out that the best ways to do this were to study 7 key factors. So masonry, which is kind of like brickwork, you can really tell the age of the building if you check out that. And then woodwork. In the 18th century, floors and houses were a lot wider with the wood, so you can go in and you can kind of tell what century it was created from. And then also roofing. Roofing changes. There's a major change between the 18th to 20th century. It's something that has to be remodeled a lot. So if you go up there, you can find nails or any type of things that can tell you about the year that it was created. And then flooring as well, just because the wood. Walls are really great because you can go in and you can see the sheetrock and you can tell. Sometimes there are things hidden in there, kind of like attics and basements. Those are great. They're almost like time capsules. You can go out there and you can find artifacts, furniture, anything to tell you about when the home was made or when the monument was created. Montpelier, actually, there was a guy named John Jeans, and he was a specialist with nails. So how they were able to take that building and restore it back to the time period in 2008 was because he knew so much about such a weird thing, which is nails, and he took it back to the exact same time period by helping these architects. And home mechanics, of course, that's basically, is there a washer or a dryer? Pretty simple. Okay, so my first mentor was Frank Walker. I really didn't know how to get the ball rolling, so I was talking to Miss Murphy, and she said, well, Miss Bell's dad is a historian. So I went to his house, and he had this huge, lovely, there's a bunch of windows, and there are books all over the place, and he just seemed to know everything that I asked him, he had an answer for. So right off the bat, he goes, why don't you talk to the people of the Historical Society in Orange? I go, we have one of those? That's a real thing. So I actually became a member of it, and that's how I met Ann Miller. Ann Miller is incredibly smart. She's been working in this field for, I want to say, maybe 40 years now. She has been an incredible help and a mentor for me. She's written several books, and she took me on all these tours just around Orange. She specializes in bridges, so she knows a lot about architecture in that sense. One of my favorite trips was we went to St. Thomas Episcopal Church, and we got to look at the brickwork there. It's really funny, if you ever drive by it, you can see how the specialists that did the brickwork that were the best did it in the very front, and then if you go look on the side, it's people that weren't very good at it, so it's all kind of messed up in the back. But that was one of my favorite trips that we got to go on. And then my community service project, I really wanted to go to a local school and participate with them, but some of the people, I had a lot of trouble with them getting back to me. So I was at the Historical Society, and this woman named Jamie Blair, she works there, and she says, well, we have this project if you'd be willing to do it. And this right here, this group of papers, is a register for the free blacks that were here in Orange County, Virginia between 1840 and 1850. And I went through with a magnifying glass and transferred all of that information onto a computer database. And what it says is it says their names, their height, any kind of weird identification, so they can get identification cards and it's verified that they are free. So it was really fun for me to go through and see, well, George had a scar on his left cheek, and that's how people were able to realize that he was a free black. And the significance of this whole project for me was that by doing my community service, I got to reach people globally, because all the information that I used is used for Ancestry.com now. So you can Google a name, and then you can actually find if your ancestors were here in Orange because of the register I created. And locally, I got to go through a walkthrough with Aaron Kane, who's the facilities director here in Orange, the old 1859 courthouse here, going through some issues. They were having to determine what the best way to remodel it would be. So I got to go through, and these are some pictures of the water damage. One thing I learned was that when you have old homes, they really need to breathe, because they didn't have the ventilation systems that we do now. So when we try to put in modern day technology, there's a lot of issues that are caused with that. So this is all because of water. And one thing to look for if you're ever in an old building is brick dust, because there's bricks, and then they put new walls on top of that, and then when the water comes in between, you know, the regular sheetrock starts to open up, and then the brick dust starts to pour down. So this, we didn't put that there. That was just hanging out. So that was one thing they told me to look for. And then this is a comparison between the original window and then the modern windows that they were putting in. And you can definitely tell the difference, but if you go there, it doesn't look anything like that. You can hardly even tell from far away. And then this was one of my favorite things. I'm not necessarily scared of heights, but I had to crawl up into the top part of the courthouse. And I will say I'm scared of ladders that were built in 1859 and the idea of being up there. But one really interesting thing that they were telling me was, if you can see in the picture to the right, there's yellow color bricks. And those are not native to Orange at all. So that helps us realize that whoever was building the courthouse had ties with people that were working the railroads. That's how they were shipping in these new materials. So it's just amazing to me that if you know these little kind of odds and facts like that, that you can actually figure out more about the particular building itself. One thing that I definitely learned about myself was that I'm way more persistent than I thought. Things in the beginning of my internship were not going the way that I had originally planned. I had to contact a lot more people, and I was turned down a lot. But I definitely am happy with the way things ended up working out. Okay. And so my future advice to any upcoming governor school seniors, you're probably going to procrastinate, let's be honest. But the main thing is to have a plan B and a plan C and a plan D, and to realize that sometimes those work out better than your original plan because of the contacts that you get to make and the connections you get to make. And your project definitely forms around your passions. And if you're passionate about the subject that you choose, it's going to be good. And you're going to figure it out whether you procrastinate or not, because it's something that you enjoy. It's not something that someone's cramming down your throat so you can learn it. And then so for my future plans, it actually worked out way better than I thought it would. I got into Christopher Newport University, and I'm going to go there for 2 years and study art history. And they're giving me a stipend so I can travel abroad. So I'm going to study architecture in Italy and then transfer after 2 years so I can do the architectural ed. So then I get to kind of have the best of both worlds, like what was in my project.
What do you say to people who are not as passionate about keeping a building? Why is that old building standing there? That looks ridiculous. Why would you want to keep it? Like, what do you say to people who have that opinion when you're so passionate about keeping it the way that it's supposed to be?
So for people like that, I would definitely say it's a huge deal for people that are trying to learn something from it. Because if I'm sitting in a classroom listening to a lecture about the 1859 courthouse, I'm probably not going to care. But if I'm up in the very top part of it looking around and seeing what's going on, then I'm definitely going to realize, okay, this is cool. We need to save this. But also, I do think it's great if you have a building that doesn't really have that much historical significance. There are people that go in and take the materials out of it that were built back in the day, and then they save those when people remodel. They can use those exact same goods to to go in there and get the things that you can, so you can use them.
The house across from Food Line, is that the historical house?
I don't think so, but I've always wanted to go.
Yeah, me too. That's what I was thinking. I was always thinking that that was one of those places where they are trying to restore it,
Yeah.
or if it's just an eyesore. Okay.
Thanks, Jen.